A detective's niece got abducted by a deadly serial killer. What happened next will shock you. Detective Alex Morrison was 3 sips into his morning coffee when his phone rang. The caller ID showed his sister's name, and something in his chest tightened. Sarah never called this early unless something was wrong. Alex. Her voice cracked like thin ice under pressure. Emma's gone. The coffee mug slipped from his hand, shattering against the kitchen floor. Hot liquid splashed across his shoes, but he barely noticed. His world had just tilted on its axis. What do you mean gone? She didn't come home last night. Her bed wasn't slept in. Her car's still in the parking lot at the mall, but she's... Sarah's words dissolved into sobs that tore through Alex's chest like shrapnel. Alex was already reaching for his badge and gun, his mind shifting into the cold, analytical mode that had served him well for 20 years on the force. But this wasn't just another case. This was Emma, his 19-year-old niece who still called him Uncle Alex and hugged him goodbye at every family gathering. I'm coming. Don't touch anything in her room. Don't call anyone else yet. I need to see everything exactly as it was. The drive to Sarah's house took 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. Alex's mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Emma was responsible, careful. She didn't stay out all night without calling. She didn't disappear without a trace. Unless someone had made her disappear. 20 minutes later, he stood in Emma's bedroom, his trained eyes scanning every detail with the methodical precision of a crime scene investigator. The 19-year-old's space was neat, organized, exactly as he'd expect from someone who'd inherited the Morrison family's obsessive attention to detail. A half-finished college application sat on her desk, reminding him of all the dreams that hung in the balance. Her phone charger lay unused on the nightstand, coiled like a snake. She was supposed to be home by 9, Sarah whispered from the doorway, her face pale and drawn. She was just buying a dress for her friend's birthday party. Something simple, she said. She had her credit card, her phone, everything. I don't understand how she could just vanish. Alex's jaw clenched as he studied the room. Emma's laptop was open on her desk, still logged into her social media accounts. Her Instagram feed showed a photo from yesterday afternoon, a selfie taken at the mall, captioned shopping for the perfect dress. #besties birthday, #mall life. The timestamp showed 4:47 p.m. His phone buzzed. A text from his partner, Detective Mike Chen. Another one. Northgate Mall parking lot. Same MO. You need to see this. Alex's blood turned to ice water in his veins. He knew exactly what those words meant, and the implications hit him like a physical blow to the chest. Sarah, I need you to stay here. Don't let anyone in the house except me. I'll be back as soon as I can. Alex, what's happening? What aren't you telling me? He paused at the bedroom door, meeting his sister's frightened eyes. I'm going to find her. I promise you that. But as he drove toward the mall, Alex's mind was already racing ahead to the darkest possibilities. The Casanova Killer had struck again, and this time, he'd taken the one person in the world that Alex couldn't afford to lose. The Northgate Mall parking lot was a hive of activity despite the early hour. Yellow crime scene tape fluttered in the morning breeze, and forensics technicians moved with practiced efficiency around a red Honda Civic, Emma's car. Alex showed his badge to the uniformed officer at the perimeter and ducked under the tape, his heart hammering against his ribs. No signs of struggle, Mike said, appearing at his side like a ghost. His partner's usually jovial expression was grim, his dark eyes reflecting the weight of what they both knew. Keys were on the ground next to the driver's door. Purse was still in the passenger seat, wallet intact. Credit cards, cash, everything's there. Alex nodded, forcing himself to think like a detective rather than a terrified uncle. 20 years of police work had taught him to compartmentalize, to push emotion into a locked box until the job was done. But Emma's face kept flashing through his mind, Her bright smile, her infectious laugh, the way she looked at him with such trust and admiration. Security footage? That's the problem. Mike's voice was heavy with frustration. The camera covering this section was spray-painted black yesterday morning. Mall security says it happened sometime between 2 and 4 a.m. Professional job. Whoever did it knew exactly which angle to block. The killer had planned this meticulously. Alex's hands slowly curled into fists as he studied the scene. The Civic was parked in the far corner of the lot, away from the main entrance and foot traffic. The perfect spot for someone to approach without being seen. What about the other cameras? We're pulling all the footage from the mall's internal security system. Might catch something from the stores, the food court, wherever she went before coming back to her car. Alex walked around the Honda, his experienced eye cataloging every detail. The driver's side door was slightly ajar, as if Emma had been getting in when something interrupted her. Her keys, a small ring with a pink heart keychain he'd given her for her 16th birthday, lay scattered on the asphalt. Any witnesses? Not a damn one. You know how it is. People see what they want to see, remember what they want to remember. A teenage girl getting into a car doesn't register as unusual unless something obviously goes wrong. Alex. Mike's voice was gentle but firm. You can't work this case. You know that. Like hell I can't. Captain's orders. You're too close to it. Too emotionally invested. Alex spun around, his eyes blazing with barely contained fury. That's exactly why I need to work it. Nobody's going to fight harder for Emma than me. Nobody's going to care more about finding her. Mike sighed, running a hand through his black hair. We'll find her, man. I promise you that. But you being on the case won't help her. It'll just compromise the investigation. But Alex had heard those promises before. He'd made them himself to other families, other desperate relatives clinging to hope like drowning swimmers clutching debris. Sometimes they came true. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes the promises were all they had left. The forensics team was finishing up, bagging evidence and taking final photographs. Alex watched them work, memorizing every detail. If he couldn't officially investigate Emma's disappearance, he'd do it unofficially. He'd use every contact, every favor owed, every resource at his disposal. Back at the precinct, Captain Rodriguez was waiting in his office, a cup of coffee growing cold on his desk. The older man's face was etched with the kind of weariness that came from delivering bad news too many times. You're off the case, Morrison. Take some time, be with your family. Captain, please. That's an order. Rodriguez's voice softened slightly. I know what this means to you. Hell, I've got a daughter Emma's age. But you're no good to anyone if you're thinking with your heart instead of your head. You'll make mistakes, miss things, maybe even compromise the investigation. Alex stormed out of the office, ignoring the sympathetic looks from his colleagues. In the hallway, he nearly collided with Detective Lisa Park from the Special Victims Unit. Alex, I'm sorry about Emma. We're all pulling for you. Thanks. His voice was clipped, professional. If it helps, I've been working the Casanova case from the beginning. I know it better than anyone. Alex stopped walking. Tell me about him. Lisa glanced around the busy hallway, then motioned toward an empty conference room. The Casanova Killer, she said once they were alone. That's what the media dubbed him after the second victim. 3 women in 6 months, all between 18 and 25. All vanished from public places with no witnesses, no struggles, no clues. She spread out a series of photographs on the conference table. Crime scene photos, victim profiles, location maps. Alex studied them with professional detachment, even as his heart clenched at the thought of Emma joining this gallery of the lost. Victoria Martinez, 22, taken from the parking garage of her apartment complex. Jessica Wong, 19, vanished from a shopping center downtown. Amy Richardson, 25, disappeared from the gym where she worked out every Tuesday night. Bodies. Victoria and Jessica were found 3 weeks after their disappearances. Remote locations, carefully posed, wearing expensive lingerie that wasn't theirs. Clean, precise wounds. He's not a sadist in the traditional sense. The kills were almost clinical. And Amy, still missing. It's been 2 months. Alex's stomach clenched. What's his cooling off period? Getting shorter. Victoria to Jessica was 3 months. Jessica to Amy was 2 months. Amy to Emma was 6 weeks. He's escalating. Or getting more confident. Maybe both. Lisa's voice was grim. The thing is, Alex, he's incredibly organized. Methodical. He studies his victims. Learns their routines. Their habits. He doesn't leave evidence behind because he plans every detail in advance. Alex studied the crime scene photos, his mind automatically cataloging similarities and differences. All 3 women were young, attractive, similar physical types. All taken from locations where they felt safe, where they had no reason to be on guard. There's something else, Lisa continued. All 3 victims were active on social media. They posted regularly about their daily activities, their locations, their plans. It's possible he used that information to select and track them. Emma's Instagram account flashed through Alex's mind, hundreds of photos, location tags, updates about her daily life. A predator's roadmap to her entire existence. I need to see everything, Alex said. Every file, every piece of evidence, every theory. Alex, you know I can't. Then I'll find another way. Lisa studied his face for a long moment. Go home, Alex. Be with your family. Let us do our jobs. But as Alex left the precinct, he knew he couldn't just go home and wait. Every hour that passed was an hour Emma spent in the hands of a killer. Every minute of inaction was a minute closer to losing her forever. In the parking lot, he sat in his car and pulled out his phone. There had to be someone who could help him, someone who understood the Casanova Killer better than the police files could reveal. Someone who had survived. Alex couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., he found himself in his home office, surrounded by printouts and photographs he'd gathered through unofficial channels. The Casanova case files were spread across his desk like tarot cards predicting a dark future. The killer was methodical, organized, patient. He chose young women who fit a specific physical profile, brunette, petite, between 18 and 25. He studied them carefully before making his move, learning their routines and vulnerabilities. But how did he approach them? How did he make them trust him long enough to get them alone? His phone rang, startling him out of his thoughts. Unknown number. Detective Morrison? Speaking. My name is Maya Chen. I think I can help you find your niece. Alex's heart stopped. The name was familiar, but he couldn't place it immediately. How do you know about? Because I escaped from him. The Casanova. 3 months ago. The line went quiet except for the sound of both of them breathing. Alex's mind raced through the case files, searching for Maya's name. Then he found it. A missing person report filed 6 months ago, closed 3 days later when she was found wandering Highway 287 with no memory of what had happened. I need to see you, Maya continued, her voice steady despite the tremor Alex could hear underneath. Tonight. I know things the police don't know. Things that might help you find Emma before it's too late. They met at Danny's Diner, a 24-hour establishment on the outskirts of town that catered to night shift workers and insomniacs. Alex recognized Maya immediately from her missing person photo, but she looked different now. Thinner, more alert, with the hyper-vigilant posture of someone who'd learned that safety was an illusion. Her dark hair was shorter than in the photo, cut in a practical bob that framed her face. She wore jeans and a dark sweater, and her eyes constantly scanned the room, cataloging exits and potential threats. When she sat down across from him in the booth, she chose the seat that gave her the best view of the entire restaurant. You told the police you couldn't remember what happened, Alex said without preamble. I lied. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. I remembered everything. Every detail, every moment. I couldn't face it. Couldn't deal with the questions, the doubt, the way they looked at me like I was damaged goods. Why now? Because I saw your niece's photo on the news. She looks like me. Like all of us. Maya's eyes met his, and Alex saw the steel beneath the apparent fragility. He has a type, detective. Young, brunette, petite. Girls who look like they need protecting. And once he takes them, he doesn't usually let them go. Tell me everything. Maya's story unfolded like a nightmare given form. She'd been working late at the marketing firm where she was a junior account executive, staying behind to finish a presentation for the next day's client meeting. It was nearly 9 p.m. when she finally left the building, walking alone through the parking garage to her car. A man approached me, she said, her voice taking on the flat, emotionless tone of someone recounting trauma. He was handsome, well-dressed, driving a nice car. He looked like someone I might have gone to college with, someone I might have met at a friend's party. He said his car wouldn't start, asked if I could give him a jump. He was so apologetic, so embarrassed. Said he felt stupid for not calling AAA, but his phone was dead. Alex leaned forward, hanging on every word. What did he look like? About 6 feet tall, brown hair going gray at the temples. Expensive clothes, not flashy but quality. He had this way of talking, very smooth, very confident. He made me feel like I was doing him a huge favor by helping him. She'd followed him to his car, a white van parked in a shadowy corner of the garage. The van looked professional, like something a contractor or repair service might use. When she leaned over to look at the engine, he'd grabbed her from behind. A cloth over my mouth and nose. Something sweet-smelling, chemical. I tried to fight, but it was too late. The last thing I remember was thinking that I should have trusted my instincts. Something about the whole situation felt wrong, but I ignored it because he seemed so normal. What happened when you woke up? Maya's composure cracked slightly, and Alex saw the pain she'd been holding back. I was in a room. No windows, soundproof walls. There was a bed, a bathroom, expensive clothes laid out on a chair. Lingerie, dresses, makeup. Everything in my size, like he'd been planning this for a long time. How long were you there? 3 days. He wanted me to play along. To be his perfect woman, his ideal girlfriend. He'd bring me meals, flowers, gifts. He'd talk to me like we were dating, like I was there by choice. He called me beautiful, told me he loved me, said we were meant to be together. Alex's jaw clenched. Did he hurt you? Not physically. Not at first. But the psychological pressure was constant. He wanted me to dress up for him, to have dinner with him, to pretend that what was happening was romantic. When I refused, he'd get angry, but then he'd apologize and bring me more gifts. It was like he genuinely believed that he could make me fall in love with him. How did you escape? Maya's voice grew stronger, more determined. I realized that his fantasy depended on my cooperation. He wanted me to be a willing participant, not a victim. So I started playing along. I wore the clothes he brought me. I smiled when he talked to me. I let him believe that I was starting to care about him. She'd spent 2 days building his trust, learning his routines and the layout of wherever he was keeping her. He was obsessive about maintaining the illusion of normalcy, bringing her meals at regular times, changing her flowers when they began to wilt, making sure she had everything she needed to play the role he'd created for her. On the 3rd night, he brought me dinner and a bottle of wine. He said he wanted to celebrate our anniversary, 3 days since we'd met. He was talking about our future together, the places we'd travel, the life we'd build. I realized that in his mind, I wasn't a kidnapping victim. I was his girlfriend. That's when she'd made her move. While he was distracted, setting up what he called their romantic dinner, she'd grabbed the wine bottle and smashed it against his head. The blow hadn't knocked him unconscious, but it had stunned him long enough for her to run. I found myself in a garage underneath what looked like a farmhouse. His van was there, keys in the ignition. I didn't even think. I just ran and got in the van and drove as fast as I could. Where was this place? I don't know exactly. Somewhere outside the city, rural area. I drove for over an hour before I found a main road. I was so panicked, so scared he was following me, that I barely paid attention to landmarks. She pulled out her phone, showing him a map she'd been working on. I've been trying to remember details, anything that might help identify the location. The garage was underground, built into a hillside. The house was old, maybe a farmhouse or a ranch. There were trees everywhere, and I remember hearing an owl when he first brought me outside. Alex studied the map, his mind racing. You never went back to the police with this information? Would you have believed me? Maya's laugh was bitter. A traumatized woman with no proof, no exact location, no physical evidence except my own testimony? The responding officers already thought I was unstable. They wrote it off as a mental breakdown, stress-induced amnesia. It was easier for everyone if I just stayed quiet. But you believe Emma's there now. I know she is. He keeps them for a while before. She couldn't finish the sentence, but Alex understood. The killer's pattern was clear. He'd hold his victims for days or weeks, trying to play out his twisted fantasy of romance and seduction. When reality inevitably shattered his delusions, he'd kill them and dump their bodies where they'd eventually be found. Will you help me? Alex asked, reaching across the table to cover her trembling hand with his. Help me find her. Maya met his eyes, and Alex saw the determination burning there. I've been waiting for someone to ask me that question for 3 months. Yes, Detective Morrison. I'll help you find Emma and stop this monster before he hurts anyone else. Maya's apartment was a study in controlled paranoia. She'd moved 3 times since her escape, always choosing places with multiple exits and clear sight lines. Deadbolts, security cameras, motion sensors, the works. Trust didn't come easily when you'd learned that monsters could wear the faces of ordinary men. I've been tracking him, she said, leading Alex into her living room. The space was sparse but functional, with blackout curtains and a clear view of the street below. Police reports, missing persons cases, anything that might fit his pattern. She'd spread papers across her coffee table, printouts from news websites, missing person flyers, maps marked with colored pins. It was the work of someone obsessed, someone who'd turned her trauma into a tool for hunting. He's methodical, Maya explained, showing Alex the timeline she'd created. Each attack is carefully planned, precisely executed. He doesn't just grab random victims. He studies them first. Alex studied the geographic pattern she'd mapped out. The attacks weren't random. They followed a specific progression, spiraling outward from the city center like ripples in a pond. Emma was at the Northgate Mall, Alex said. But how did he know she'd be there? Maya moved to her laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard. Social media. Your niece posted about going shopping yesterday afternoon. Location tagged and everything. Alex's stomach dropped as he looked at Emma's Instagram account. Her entire life was there. Photos of her daily activities, check-ins at restaurants and stores, updates about her plans and moods. A predator's treasure trove of information. He's been watching her for weeks, Maya continued, scrolling through Emma's timeline. Look at this. In the background of a photo Emma had taken at a coffee shop 2 weeks ago, Alex could make out a figure in a dark jacket and baseball cap. The person's face was obscured, but the same figure appeared in the background of 2 other photos from different locations. Son of a bitch, Alex breathed. He studies them before he takes them. Learns their habits, their favorite places, their schedules. That's how he's always one step ahead of the police. Maya had done more than just track the killer's movements. She'd analyzed his methodology with the precision of a criminal profiler. She'd identified the psychological triggers he looked for, the vulnerabilities he exploited, the techniques he used to gain his victims' trust. He targets women who are alone but not isolated, she explained. Places where they feel safe but where he can approach them without drawing attention. Parking lots, shopping centers, places with enough activity to provide cover, but not enough to prevent him from acting. What about his appearance? You said he was handsome, well-dressed. It's part of his method. He doesn't look like a threat. He looks like someone you might want to help, someone you might be attracted to. He's probably practiced his approach, refined it over time. The car trouble story is just one of several scenarios he has ready. They worked through the night, cross-referencing Emma's social media activity with the killer's known patterns. Maya's insights were invaluable. She understood the predator's psychology in ways that no police manual could teach. He'll keep her alive for a while, Maya said as dawn broke through the blackout curtains. Part of his fantasy is the seduction, the belief that he can make them love him. He won't hurt her as long as she appears to be cooperating. And if she doesn't, then he'll escalate. Try to force compliance through intimidation, isolation, psychological pressure. If that doesn't work, Maya's voice trailed off. Alex understood. If Emma couldn't or wouldn't play the role the killer had created for her, she'd join the list of bodies found in remote locations. We need to find where he's keeping her, Alex said. You said it was a farmhouse, underground garage. That narrows it down. I've been researching properties in the area where I think I escaped from, Maya said, pulling up a real estate website. Looking for places that match what I remember. Rural, isolated, with outbuildings or basements. The search parameters were broad, but they had to start somewhere. Alex began making calls, using his contacts in the department to access property records and tax assessments. Maya worked her own network, former colleagues, online communities, anyone who might have information about suspicious activities in rural areas. By noon, they had a list of possibilities. 15 properties that matched the basic criteria, scattered across 3 counties. It would take days to check them all, and they didn't have days. There has to be a way to narrow this down, Alex said, studying the map they'd created. Wait, Maya said suddenly. I just remembered something. When I was driving away, I passed a water tower. It was painted blue and white, had some kind of logo on it. I remember thinking it looked like a school mascot. Alex's pulse quickened. Can you describe it? A bird, I think. Maybe an eagle or a hawk. And there were words underneath, but I was driving too fast and I was too scared to read them clearly. Alex was already on his phone, searching for water towers in the area. Blue and white, bird logo. Got it. Riverside High School, class of '98. They painted their water tower as a senior prank, and the town never changed it back. The water tower was in Millbrook County, about an hour outside the city. Alex cross-referenced their property list with the location, and the possibilities narrowed to 4 properties within a reasonable distance. That's it, Maya said, pointing to one of the addresses. That feels right. The timing, the location, the isolation. The property belonged to Marcus Delacroix, a 47-year-old divorced man who owned a furniture restoration business. No criminal record, no red flags in his background check. The perfect cover for a predator who needed to fly under the radar. 23 acres, main house built in 1962, several outbuildings including a workshop and garage. Alex read from the property records. Remote location, nearest neighbor is half a mile away. That's him, Maya said, her voice filled with certainty. That's where he's keeping Emma. Alex was already reaching for his phone to call for backup, but Maya grabbed his arm. Don't, she said urgently. By the time they get there, set up a perimeter, get warrants. He could kill her. Or move her somewhere else. He's paranoid about being discovered. Any sign of police presence and he'll panic. I can't just charge in there alone. You won't be alone. I'll be with you. Maya's voice was steady, determined. I know the layout. I know his routines. We can get Emma out before he knows we're there. Alex stared at the property photos on his laptop screen. Every instinct told him to follow protocol, to bring in the cavalry and do this by the book. But protocol hadn't saved the other victims. Protocol had left Emma in the hands of a killer for over 24 hours. What's the plan? He asked. Maya smiled grimly. We're going to give him a taste of his own medicine. We're going to hunt the hunter. The drive to Millbrook County took them through increasingly rural terrain. Strip malls and suburban developments gave way to farmland and forest, the kind of isolated countryside where someone could scream and never be heard. Alex's hands were steady on the steering wheel, but his mind was racing through scenarios, contingencies, ways this could go wrong. Turn here, Maya said, consulting the map on her phone. The property should be about 2 miles down this road. The road was narrow, winding through dense woods that blocked out most of the afternoon sun. Alex could understand why Maya had been disoriented during her escape. Every turn looked the same. Every stretch of forest blended into the next. There, Maya pointed to a mailbox nearly hidden by overgrown vegetation. That's it. Alex pulled over about a quarter-mile before the driveway, parking behind a stand of trees that concealed his car from the road. They'd need to approach on foot, using the forest as cover. Remember, Maya said as they gathered their equipment, he's expecting victims, not opposition. He's used to being in control, to having the advantage. That's what we're going to take away from him. Alex checked his service weapon, making sure it was loaded and ready. He'd also brought a tactical flashlight, zip ties, and a small first aid kit. Maya had equipped herself with pepper spray and a tactical knife. Not much, but she'd proven that she could be resourceful when cornered. They moved through the forest like ghosts, using the trees for cover and avoiding the gravel driveway that would announce their presence. The property was exactly as Maya had described, an old farmhouse with several outbuildings, surrounded by acres of woods and overgrown fields. The garage is behind the house, Maya whispered as they crept closer. Built into the hillside, with the workshop above it. That's where he keeps them. Alex could see the white van parked in the driveway, confirming what they both already knew. The killer was here, and presumably so was Emma. We need to get closer, Alex said. See if we can determine where he is, what he's doing. They circled the property, staying in the tree line but moving close enough to observe the house. Lights were on in what looked like the kitchen, and Alex could see movement through the windows. He's preparing dinner, Maya said, her voice tight with memory. He always brought me dinner at exactly 6 p.m. Said it was important to maintain civilized routines. Alex checked his watch. 5:45 p.m. If Maya was right, they had a narrow window of opportunity. Can you get me into that garage? Maya nodded. There's a service door on the side, usually kept unlocked. He's arrogant. Never considered that someone might come looking for his victims. They waited until they saw the killer leave the kitchen, carrying a tray toward what was probably the basement entrance. Then they moved, crossing the open ground between the trees and the garage in a low sprint. The service door was exactly where Maya had said it would be. Alex tried the handle, and it turned easily. Inside, the garage was exactly as Maya had described. A workshop above, a concrete ramp leading down to a lower level built into the hillside. The room is down there, Maya whispered. Soundproof, windowless. He's probably with her now, playing out his fantasy. Alex drew his weapon, checking to make sure the safety was off. Stay behind me. If this goes wrong, you run. Get to the car and call for backup. I'm not leaving you. Maya. I'm not leaving you, she repeated firmly. Emma's going to need someone who understands what she's been through. Someone who can help her get through this. Alex didn't have time to argue. They crept down the concrete ramp, their footsteps muffled by the workshop noise above. At the bottom, a heavy wooden door stood slightly ajar, warm light spilling through the gap. Alex could hear voices, a man's voice, smooth and confident, and a younger woman's voice, strained and frightened. "Emma, you look beautiful in that dress," the man was saying. "I knew the moment I saw you that you were special, that we were meant to be together. Please," Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "I want to go home. This is your home now. Our home. Once you understand that, once you accept what we have together, you'll be happy here." Alex positioned himself beside the door, weapon ready. He caught Maya's eye and nodded. She understood. On his signal, she'd push the door open and he'd go through first. "I know this is confusing," the killer continued. "But love is confusing sometimes. You'll see. In time, you'll understand that everything I've done has been for us." Alex held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. Maya pushed the door open, and Alex burst through, weapon trained on the man inside. "Police. Don't move." The scene that greeted him was exactly as Maya had described. A windowless room set up like a bedroom, with expensive furniture and soft lighting. Emma sat on the bed, wearing a dress that wasn't hers, her face pale with terror and exhaustion. Marcus Delacroix, for Alex was certain this was their killer, stood beside her, holding a bouquet of flowers. He was handsome in a conventional way, with graying hair and kind eyes. He looked like someone's father, not a serial killer. "Detective Morrison," Marcus said calmly, as if Alex's arrival was expected. "I was wondering when you'd find us." "Let her go," Alex said, his gun never wavering from Marcus's chest. "I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, Emma and I are in love. Aren't we, sweetheart?" Emma's eyes met Alex's, and he saw the fear there, but also hope. She was alive, she was unharmed, and she was going to stay that way. "You're under arrest for kidnapping, murder, and a whole list of other charges," Alex said. "Get on the ground, hands behind your head." Marcus smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach his eyes. "I don't think so, Detective. You see, you're alone, you're off your jurisdiction, and you're emotionally compromised. No one knows you're here. No one's coming to help you." "He's wrong," Maya said, stepping into the room behind Alex. "I'm here. And I know exactly what kind of monster you are." Marcus's composed facade cracked for the first time. "Maya. My dear, sweet Maya. I've missed you so much." "I haven't missed you at all," Maya said, her voice steady and strong. "Emma, it's going to be okay. We're going to get you out of here." But Marcus was already moving, faster than Alex had anticipated. His hand went to his jacket, and Alex saw the glint of metal. "Gun!" Alex shouted, pushing Emma toward the door. The shot echoed through the underground room like thunder. The bullet caught Alex in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing into the wall. His weapon clattered across the concrete floor, disappearing into the shadows. Pain exploded through his arm and chest, but training and adrenaline kept him moving. "Alex." Maya's voice was sharp with fear, but she was already in motion, grabbing Emma and pulling her toward the door. "Go!" Alex gasped, pressing his hand against the bleeding wound in his shoulder. "Get her out of here." But Marcus was between them and the exit, his own gun trained on the 3 of them. Up close, Alex could see the madness in the man's eyes, the cold, calculating intelligence of a predator who'd been cornered. "Nobody's leaving," Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. "We're going to sit down like civilized people and discuss this situation." "There's nothing to discuss," Maya said, her arm around Emma's shoulders. "You're a killer and a monster, and we're leaving." Marcus laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Maya, my dear, you always were too dramatic. What we had was beautiful, special. You just weren't ready to appreciate it. What we had was kidnapping and torture. Love is never torture when it's real. Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger. Detective Morrison, you've complicated things considerably. I had hoped we could resolve this without violence. Alex's vision blurred as blood loss began to take its toll, but he forced himself to focus. 20 years of police work had taught him to read dangerous situations, to look for opportunities when they presented themselves. Marcus was confident, in control, but he was also talking instead of shooting. That meant he wanted something more than just their deaths. What do you want? Alex asked, buying time while he searched for his dropped weapon. I want what any man wants. Love, companionship, understanding. I want Emma to realize that what we have is special, that I've chosen her above all others. Marcus's eyes were bright with zealous conviction. She's perfect, detective. Young, beautiful, pure. With the right guidance, she could be everything I've ever dreamed of. She's 19 years old, Alex said, his voice hoarse with pain and anger. She's just a kid. Age is just a number when true love is involved. Look at her. She's a woman, not a child. She has the capacity for deep feeling, for passionate commitment. All she needs is someone to show her the way. Emma whimpered, pressing closer to Maya. The girl's face was pale with terror, but Alex could see the strength in her eyes, the Morrison steel that had carried their family through generations of hardship. You're insane, Maya said, her voice cutting through Marcus's delusions like a blade. You're a predator who preys on young women. You killed Victoria Martinez. You killed Jessica Wong. You're going to kill Emma just like you killed them. Marcus's composure slipped for a moment, his face twisting with rage. They disappointed me. They couldn't understand what I was offering them. They were too focused on their old lives, their old relationships. They couldn't see that I was trying to give them something better. You were trying to control them, Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. You wanted to own them, to turn them into your perfect little dolls. But real people aren't dolls, Marcus. They have their own thoughts, their own dreams, their own lives. Shut up, Marcus snapped, swinging the gun toward Maya. You don't understand anything. You never understood what we could have had together. That's when Alex saw his chance. Marcus was distracted, focused on Maya instead of watching his captives. Alex's weapon was 3 feet away, half hidden under the bed. If he could reach it. You're right, Alex said, drawing Marcus's attention back to him. I don't understand. Explain it to me. Make me see what you see. Marcus's eyes lit up with evangelical fervor. Finally, someone willing to listen. You see, detective, modern society has corrupted the natural order of relationships. Women are taught to be independent, to reject the guidance of men who could help them reach their full potential. They're told that love is about equality, about partnership, but that's not how nature intended it. Alex inched closer to the gun, his movements disguised by the way he was clutching his wounded shoulder. Go on. A woman needs a man who can provide for her, protect her, show her the depths of passion she never knew existed. In return, she offers her devotion, her beauty, her complete surrender to his will. It's the oldest dance in human history, and it's beautiful when done correctly. By kidnapping and murder? By patience and persistence. By showing them that what I offer is better than anything they've known before. Marcus's voice grew dreamy, lost in his twisted fantasy. Victoria was so close to understanding. For 2 weeks, she played her part perfectly. She wore the clothes I bought her. She smiled when I brought her gifts. She even told me she loved me. But then she tried to escape, and I realized it was all an act. So you killed her. I freed her from the lies she'd been telling herself and me. It was a mercy, really. She was never going to be happy living a life of deception. Alex's fingers closed around the grip of his weapon. And Jessica? Jessica was different. Stronger, more resilient. She lasted 3 weeks before she disappointed me. I had such hopes for her. Marcus's face darkened. But she was like all the others, corrupted by modern ideas about women's independence. She couldn't submit to love the way nature intended. What about Emma? Maya asked, her voice tight with controlled fury. What makes you think she's different? Look at her, Marcus said, his gaze shifting to Emma with disturbing intensity. She's pure, unspoiled by the cynicism that destroys so many young women. She has the capacity for true devotion, for complete surrender to love. With the right guidance, she could be everything I've ever wanted. Emma finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper but filled with steel. I'll never love you. I'll never be what you want me to be. Marcus's face went cold. You will. In time, you'll understand that resistance is futile. I'm patient, Emma. I can wait as long as necessary for you to come to your senses. And if she doesn't? Alex asked, his weapon now in his hand but still hidden beneath his body. Then she'll join the others. But I don't think it will come to that. Emma is special. She's the one I've been waiting for. That's when Maya made her move. She'd been inching toward the workshop tools hanging on the wall, and now she grabbed a heavy wrench, swinging it in a wide arc toward Marcus's head. Marcus saw the attack coming and stepped back, but the wrench caught him in the shoulder, sending him staggering. His gun fired wild, the bullet embedding itself in the concrete wall. Alex now, Maya shouted. Alex rolled to his feet, his own weapon coming up. But Marcus was faster than he'd expected, diving behind the bed and using Emma as a human shield. Drop the gun, detective, or I'll put a bullet in her head. Alex froze, his weapon trained on Marcus but unable to get a clear shot. Emma was directly in the line of fire, her eyes wide with terror. Let her go, Alex said, his voice steady despite the pain in his shoulder. This is between you and me. No, it's between me and a society that refuses to understand true love. Marcus's voice was becoming more unhinged, his carefully constructed facade cracking under pressure. You've ruined everything, detective. Years of planning, months of preparation, all destroyed by your interference. Good, Maya said, moving to flank Marcus from the other side. You deserve to have your sick fantasies destroyed. Maya, my dear, you're making a mistake. We could have been so happy together. We could have had everything. We never had anything, Maya said firmly. You had a victim, and I had a nightmare. That's all it ever was. Marcus's grip on Emma tightened, and Alex could see the girl's face turning pale from fear and lack of oxygen. I won't let you take her from me. I won't let you destroy what we have. You don't have anything, Alex said, still searching for a clear shot. You have a terrified girl you've traumatized and imprisoned. That's not love, that's psychosis. You're wrong. Marcus screamed, his composure finally shattering completely. You're all wrong. Love isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be passionate, all-consuming, transformative. These women just aren't strong enough to handle real love. That's when Emma acted. Instead of remaining passive, she suddenly threw her weight backward, surprising Marcus and throwing him off balance. At the same moment, Maya struck again with the wrench, and Alex took his shot. The bullet caught Marcus in the chest, sending him crashing to the floor. His gun flew from his hand, skittering across the concrete. Emma scrambled away from his falling body, throwing herself into Alex's arms. It's over, Alex said, holding his niece close while keeping his weapon trained on Marcus's still form. You're safe now. It's over. But Marcus wasn't dead. Blood was spreading across his chest, and his breathing was labored. But his eyes were still alert, still filled with malevolent intelligence. It's never over, he gasped, his voice barely audible. There are others like me. Men who understand what love really means. This isn't the end. Maybe not, Maya said, standing over him with the wrench still in her hand. But it's the end for you. Alex was already on his phone, calling for ambulances and backup. Outside, he could hear the distant sound of sirens. Someone must have heard the gunshots and called 911. Emma, he said, cupping his niece's face in his hands. Are you hurt? Did he harm you? No, Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. He wanted me to play along, to pretend I loved him. I was so scared, Uncle Alex. I thought no one would find me. I would have found you, Alex said firmly. I would have turned the world upside down to find you. Maya knelt beside Marcus, checking his pulse. He's alive, but barely. The paramedics might be able to save him. Good, Alex said grimly. I want him to stand trial. I want the world to know what he did to those women. As the sirens grew louder, Alex held Emma close and looked around the underground prison where Marcus had planned to break her spirit. The room was a monument to one man's twisted vision of love, filled with expensive gifts and carefully chosen furnishings meant to seduce and control. But it was also a testament to the power of human resilience. Maya had escaped from this place, had found the strength to help rescue Emma. Emma had survived 3 days of psychological torture without breaking, and Alex had been willing to risk everything to save the person he loved most in the world. It's really over? Emma asked, her voice small and uncertain. It's over, Alex promised. You're safe now. You're going home. The next few hours passed in a blur of police activity, medical examinations, and official statements. Marcus Delacroix was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, his survival uncertain. Alex's shoulder wound required surgery, but the doctors assured him he'd make a full recovery. Emma was examined by a team of medical professionals and victim advocates, who confirmed that she'd been physically unharmed. The psychological trauma would take longer to heal, but she was strong, surrounded by family and friends who loved her. I keep thinking about what he said, Emma told Alex as they waited in the hospital. About love being passionate and all-consuming. It made me feel like there was something wrong with me for not understanding. There's nothing wrong with you, Alex said firmly. What he described wasn't love. It was obsession, control, possession. Real love is about respect, trust, and caring for someone else's happiness as much as your own. Maya sat with them, having refused to leave until she was sure Emma was going to be okay. He's very good at making his victims feel responsible for his actions, she said quietly. He made me feel like I was the one who was broken, the one who couldn't appreciate what he was offering. It took me months to understand that the problem was never with me. How did you get through it? Emma asked. One day at a time. And by remembering that surviving doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. What you went through, what you survived, that's going to be part of you forever. But it doesn't have to define you. Detective Lisa Park arrived with updates on the case. Delacroix is stable but unconscious. Even if he survives, he's looking at multiple life sentences. We've also found evidence linking him to 2 other disappearances from last year. More victims? Alex asked. Possibly. We're still investigating, but it looks like he's been at this longer than we thought. The farmhouse is a treasure trove of evidence, photographs, personal belongings, detailed journals describing his methods. Alex felt sick thinking about how many women might have suffered at Marcus's hands. What about his background? How did he fly under the radar for so long? He was careful, methodical. His furniture restoration business was legitimate, gave him a reason to travel around the state. He had no criminal record, no history of violence. He was exactly the kind of predator who's hardest to catch, organized, intelligent, patient. Until now, Maya said with satisfaction. Until now, Lisa agreed. Thanks to both of you, he'll never hurt anyone again. Over the following days, the story dominated local news. The Casanova Killer had been captured, his reign of terror ended by a determined uncle and a brave survivor. Maya became something of a celebrity, appearing on talk shows and news programs to discuss her ordeal and recovery. But she handled the attention with grace, using her platform to advocate for other victims of violent crime. "Survival is just the beginning," she told one interviewer. "The real work is in healing, in rebuilding your life, in refusing to let what happened to you define who you are." Emma's recovery was slower, more private. She returned to college for the spring semester, but she'd changed, grown up in ways that Alex wished she hadn't needed to. She was more cautious now, more aware of the dangers that existed in the world. But she was also stronger, more determined to live life on her own terms. "I think about him sometimes," she told Alex during one of their regular check-ins. "Not because I miss him or anything like that, but because I wonder what made him that way. What turned him into a monster? Does it matter?" Alex asked. "Maybe. I keep thinking that if we could understand what creates people like him, maybe we could prevent it from happening to others." Alex was proud of her for that thought. It showed a maturity and compassion that many adults never developed. "You're going to be okay? More than okay, you're going to be extraordinary." "I already am," she said with a smile that reminded him of the little girl who used to braid his hair. "I'm a survivor." 6 months after the rescue, Alex stood in Maya's new apartment, helping her hang pictures on the walls. She'd moved again, but this time it wasn't about running from her past. It was about building a future. "I got the job," she announced, holding up an official-looking letter. "Victim Services Coordinator for the DA's office. I start next month." "Congratulations," Alex said, meaning it. "They're lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have the opportunity. A year ago, I never would have imagined I'd be able to help other people through what I went through. But here we are." Maya had changed dramatically since their first meeting at the diner. She was still cautious, still alert to potential dangers, but she'd found a way to channel her trauma into something positive. Her work with other victims had given her a sense of purpose that went beyond mere survival. "How's Emma doing?" she asked as they worked. "Good. Really good. She's thinking about changing her major to criminal justice. Says she wants to help catch monsters like Delacroix. Following in her uncle's footsteps? Something like that. Though I hope she never has to go through what we went through to get there." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, hanging photographs and arranging furniture. Maya's new apartment was bigger than her old one, with more windows and better lighting. It felt like a place where someone could build a life, not just hide from the world. "Alex," Maya said suddenly, "I need to tell you something." He looked up from the picture he was hanging, a landscape photograph Maya had taken during a recent trip to the mountains. "I'm grateful for what happened," she continued. "Not the kidnapping, not the trauma, but everything that came after. Meeting you, helping save Emma, finding my purpose. I know that sounds crazy, but I think I'm a better person now than I was before." "You were always a strong person," Alex said. "You just didn't know it yet." "Maybe. But I know it now. And I know that I can use what happened to me to help other people. That makes it all worthwhile." Alex's phone rang, interrupting their conversation. The caller ID showed the precinct number. "Detective Morrison." "Alex, it's Mike. We've got a situation. Missing person, young woman. Circumstances similar to the Casanova case. Captain wants you to take lead." Alex felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the surge of adrenaline that came with a new case. "I'll be right there." He hung up and turned to Maya. "Duty calls. Another missing person?" "Yeah. Young woman, similar circumstances." Maya was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Go. Do what you do best. But Alex, be careful. There are more monsters out there." "I know. But there are also more people like you and Emma. People who refuse to be victims, who fight back, who survive. That's what keeps me going." As Alex drove toward the precinct, he thought about the past year and everything it had taught him. He'd learned that evil could wear the most ordinary faces, that predators could be charming and intelligent and completely ruthless. But he'd also learned that the human spirit was remarkably resilient, that people could survive unimaginable trauma and come out stronger on the other side. Emma was back in college, studying criminal justice and planning a career in law enforcement. Maya was helping other victims find their voices and reclaim their lives. And Alex was back to doing what he did best, hunting monsters and bringing them to justice. The radio crackled with updates on the new case. A 23-year-old graduate student named Sarah Chen had disappeared from her apartment complex 2 nights ago. No signs of struggle, no witnesses, no obvious motive. It had all the hallmarks of a predator who'd learned from the Casanova case, who'd adapted his methods to avoid the mistakes that had brought down Marcus Delacroix. But Alex was ready for him. He'd learned things too, gained insights that could only come from staring into the abyss and refusing to blink. He had Maya's expertise to draw on, Emma's resilience to inspire him, and his own hard-won knowledge of how predators thought and operated. Most importantly, he had something that the monsters didn't have, the support of people who cared about him, who believed in what he was doing, who would help him carry the weight when it became too much to bear alone. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Saw the news about the missing girl. Be careful, Uncle Alex. The world needs more people like you. Another text, this one from Maya. If you need help with the psychological profile, call me. We're stronger together than we are apart. Alex smiled as he pulled into the precinct parking lot. The monsters were still out there, still hunting, still destroying lives. But they weren't the only ones who could be patient, methodical, and ruthless when necessary. The hunters were hunting back. Detective Morrison, Captain Rodriguez said as Alex entered the building. Glad you're here. We've got a lot of work to do. I'm ready, Alex said and meant it. Outside, the city continued its daily rhythm. Millions of people going about their lives, most of them unaware of the predators who moved among them. But some knew. Some had stared into the darkness and emerged scarred but unbroken. Some had learned that survival was just the beginning, that the real victory came in refusing to let evil win. Alex Morrison was one of those people. And he was ready to get back to work. The hunt never ended. But neither did the determination to see justice done. In a hospital across town, Marcus Delacroix lay in a secure ward, his body slowly healing from the gunshot wound that had ended his killing spree. He would survive to stand trial, to face the families of his victims, to spend the rest of his life in a cage where he belonged. But his legacy lived on in the strength of the women who had survived him, in the determination of the detective who had brought him down, and in the knowledge that evil, no matter how clever or patient, could never truly win as long as there were people willing to fight back. The Casanova Killer was finished. But the story of those who had defeated him was just beginning. The end. We encourage you to like and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed the video. Please share your thoughts in the comments section and explore our channel for a diverse range of content, including audiobooks, murder mysteries, psychological thrillers, and classic novels. We strive to provide comprehensive and engaging storytelling experiences. Your visit is highly appreciated, and we are confident you will find content to your liking.